Welcome, everyone, to Pirate Vibes on the Big East Energy Network. It's Victory Thursday, right? This episode's coming out Thursday night. It's Victory Thursday. Who would have thought that we're going to be this happy this early? I'm, of course, joined by Tim Bess, the real Timmy Ice, right, on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes. Yeah, true story behind the real Timmy Ice. So when I was a freshman in college, someone made a parody account on Twitter of mine, and they were like chirping players from DePaul, and one player's cousin who's from like North Chicago was like threatening the fake Timmy Ice. And so in order to distinguish me from the fakes, I had to, put the badge of authenticity on at the real Timmy Ice. And by the way, I will never buy a blue check mark. Horrible investment. So that's how you'll know.
And Pat Madden from the Big East blog. Pat, you've had a busy couple days with basketball.
That is correct. Saw the men on Monday, saw the women on Tuesday. So a night I don't have to. Not that I watched a little bit in some places, but not a night I'm at an arena watching a game.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so let's get out of the way. How important was this win for Seton Hall? I know it's just St. Peter's. It's just a MAAC team. The team that we beat last year. It was one of the 7 wins last year. Of course, only by 4. How important? Actually, fun fact before we go deep down. The last time we beat St. Peter's by exactly 27 points was 1989. So maybe there's some good omen there. So that's the last time we beat them by exactly 27 points. So I'm hoping that brings some good luck to this team. But how important was that win? We'll start with Tim, since you watched it on TV, right?
Yeah, I was able to watch. I think at least I'm trying to think of I think I was able to. So I have my referee class. I'm upgrading to varsity status this year. So I'm going to class to get ready for the upgrade exam. So I was able to tune in maybe at the under 8 in the first half. I think it was kind of close early on, but then once I saw Najai Hines' stat line early, I'm like, oh my God, I got to see this kid. And immediately within the first 5 minutes of watching the game was when Hines had that steal, gave it off to Clark, trailed him, had the dunk. I was like, oh my God, this is fun. If we're talking scale 1 to 10, how important this is, I'd probably put it at a 7. I don't want to get myself too high, but again, St. Peter's was one of the 7 teams that we beat last season, and that was only by 4 points. The fact that we won this game as convincingly as we did and doing a lot of things right, like sharing the rock well, forcing turnovers. And I don't know if you remember from the last episode, the one thing I personally guaranteed that would happen in this game was the Seton Hall would force St. Peter's under 30% from behind the arc. It happened. I think they were only 26%. So they did everything that they needed to do to have an emphatic win, which in non-conference play last year, I think they really only had one such win, and that was against Wagner in that ugly 58-28 game that I think I talked about that last episode as well. So the fact that 1-0 emphatic win, this is going to be monumental. I'm keeping it at a 7, but if we're looking at how confident we are going into the final 4 non-conference games before they go to Maui, my confidence went, if it was here, it probably went over my head.
Elevated. Pat, this is your first time seeing Najai Hines in person, correct?
Yes.
So me and you have seen him in person. I saw him in the EYBL. You saw him actually in this game. What was your first impression with Najai Hines?
That guy has it. He just you sometimes you see a guy like that and he's not ready, or he usually a guy like that, there's something missing from his game. Hines all but has it all. I think I rewatched the episode that we did when Hines committed, just to sort of reference what we said, because when we were talking about him in July, I thought we were saying some off the wall stuff about this 18-year-old kid, and unfortunately, we've grown to become cynical about the fact that the 18 and 19-year-old kids starting the game have more talent than most of those 23, 24-year-olds who are trying to get their 5th year of eligibility to make a big NIL check. So, and we talked about, you talked particularly when you watched him about the fact that he could block shots without fouling. Yeah. He could score almost at the rim at will. Talk about the fact how well he moves up the court. We joked about people. Hines is coming into this a little bit chubby, and he's got to lose some weight to move better. But that was certainly not apparent when you saw the game on Monday. And then to sort of get to one of Tim's favorite measuring sticks for a basketball player, great touch from the foul line. Now, again, the video that I saw at him at the homecoming event, he knocks down a couple of threes. And they asked Holloway on Monday night, are we going to see more stuff from Hines? Does he have, let's say, for example, an outside shot? And Holloway sort of said, well, I don't really want him to do that type of stuff yet. But, the way he shoots the ball, from the foul line tells you all you need to know. If and when the day comes, he'll be ready to hit those outside jump shots.
Yeah. He surprised a lot of people that aren't following him closely. I think the biggest surprise for Seton Hall fans was the starting lineup. Me and you have talked starting lineup since we started the show, Pat. Tim, you've come on here. We've talked starting lineup in our group chat, all that. Mike Williams has to be a shock, right? Like, I'm not the only one that was completely shocked by that. Like, I just – like, when you have Simpkins, and I kind of understand it after. We'll dive deep into that. But was that a shock for you guys?
I'm going to say yes and no. Here's the no. The no is Holloway wants to emphasize having multiple ball handlers on the court at any given time. He doesn't want to put Bud Clark in a situation where he's got to dribble the ball up for 30 minutes. So he wants to give Williams and Trey Parker their opportunities to bring the ball up and run the offense, and maybe give Clark a couple of opportunities to play off the ball. The other thing, of course, which is noteworthy, is the fact that Clark's jump shot is better than advertised. Knocked down 2 threes and didn't look like he was breaking a sweat doing it.
Pat, I heard you in the presser. I recognized that voice asking Bud Clark about his shooting touch. I was like, that's my man, Pat Madden, asking the best question of the night. The rest were just like kissing Hines' butt. And Pat comes in, hey, you've been working on the shot, and it paid off. So kudos to you, Pat. What do you guys think of the hockey subs, I guess, Tim? Like, especially at the beginning, 5 in, 5 out. Everyone balanced minutes. I know it's a blowout, but like the top 10 guys basically had about the same minutes, between 25 and 15.
Yeah. I'm looking at the box score right now. Bud had 25 minutes to lead the team, but then you look at, I think, let's see, 1, 5. You had 9 guys with at least 18 minutes played. That is honestly, like, that's kind of remarkable. And he tried doing this last year, but he obviously did not have the personnel to be able to pull that off successfully. Everyone and their mother knows that. Mike Williams, like, I'm in the same boat as Pat. Like, yes, I was a little surprised because we were talking about Simpkins and Trey Parker a little bit, and obviously Najai Hines, but obviously they started Payne instead. That's another guy, like, I want to touch on. Here comes the Payne. Like, he was tremendous in this game. To quote the legendary Taz, that was his tagline for Brock Lesnar when he was coming up. Anyways, I digress. He had 2 block shots as well. That's, 9 block shots for the Pirates. Najee obviously had 6 of them, but Payne had 2 as well. I thought he did a great job of altering shots and being a strong presence down low on both ends of the floor. But the depth, I love what I'm seeing. I don't know how much it'll translate to Big East play and some of the tougher non-conference games, but it shows that there are legitimately 10 reliable players that Sha can turn to at any given moment. If one's down, he can find someone to help, pick them back up.
Pat, your take on 5 in, 5 out, the depth on this squad in the first night.
Well, again, there's the other thing that I don't know if anybody. I know people asked that question and didn't quite. A few of those questions don't come from. I still think there are people who don't quite understand Shaheen Holloway's philosophy. I mean, he obviously thinks that all 10 guys he's put on the court for significant minutes on Monday night earn those minutes. Because if you weren't getting work from, let's say, Dar or Simpkins or Parker or even Payne, he probably would lay back on those guys like we saw last year when he didn't want to play Emmanuel Loco for significant minutes. He didn't want to play Yassine Toumé significant minutes. No. There were times when Garway Duel would hide on the bench or Scotty Middleton would hide on the bench. But, you could tell that these guys, that there's the phrase buy-in is used too much. But you could just tell the way these guys were defending, sticking to their men, playing help defense and all the other stuff that Holloway preaches to get ready for defense. You could tell these guys were really making an effort to impress Holloway on Monday night to put their money, put their trust, put the play to back up the trust that Holloway had in them.
Yeah, it seemed like all 12 were locked in, right? Like they all were locked in. Even the bench was lively. Gabriel, I know every time it scrolled by the bench, you can see him kind of being like another assistant coach on the sideline. Tim, one guy that maybe leaves a little bit to desire. Was there a guy that kind of stood out? I know you can look at the shooting numbers and you could say Stan McRae because of shooting numbers, but if you look at the rest of the stat line, he kind of pads that stat line, 6 rebounds. Was there a guy, or was this a great team effort and we'll go from there? We're not going negative.
I really think it was a true team effort. I think everyone had their moments. The one guy I was hoping to maybe see more out of was Jasim Felton because he's one of the returners. Didn't have great shooting numbers. He was 0 for 3 from behind the arc. I feel like shooting isn't really his forte. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised by that. But then again, I don't expect him to be taking like 3 3-point attempts in a game. But I mean, overall, though, I was just thoroughly impressed with how they shared the rock. They forced turnovers and they protected the ball as well. I mean, only 8 turnovers. They were 5 of 15 from 3. It wasn't at that 35 to 40% range that I was looking for. But by the way, I had predicted 6 for 16. I got 5 of 15. Like, how insane is that?
Go out and shoot one, Tim. That way you can get to you go out. We've seen your stroke from the 3-point line. So you go out and shoot one and then put it in and we'll tack it to the numbers.
Yeah, why not? And also speaking of numbers, I like 30 for 36 from the free throw line. Like, I am in heaven.
I was saving that, Tim. I was saving that because I just building the anticipation, but go for it, man. Like when I saw 19 to 23 in the first half, I thought Tim Best. Honestly, that was the first when I saw that stat line show up on the screen, I was like, Tim's going to be very, very happy with this. So,
I couldn't be happier with that. And also, I will say like the fact that they did so well in transition. I mean, the one play, the alley-oop from Parker to Dar. Oh my, like someone said on Twitter that like not one play, like no 2 players on last year's team could have been able to pull that play off. And you know what? As much as I hate to say it, whoever that person was that tweeted it, they're 100% right. The amount of weapons and athleticism that is on this team compared to last year, like it's borderline almost incomprehensible, but in the best way possible, obviously.
Pat, you were there. Is there one guy that kind of left something to be desired, or you're good with the overall performance? Because even like Elijah Fisher, right? Fisher got a lot of compliments on, especially early on with his hustle. 8.6 rebounds. He went 1 for 5 in shooting, but I'll take 8 points and 6 rebounds. Like, how many times did we get that last year? Out of your fourth leading scorer, like I'll take it. So
yeah, let's see if there's consistency to what we saw on Monday night. Let's see, because again, you don't want to see something where they do this on Monday and then when they come out to play Wagner on Friday, they sort of get too pumped up about how fired up everyone is about how things play. And I think that's that's sort of something where that's what I'll be looking for when I watch the Wagner game. And then when we see the Fairfield, Monmouth, and then New Haven games after that, is are they still going to go out and just try to beat these teams to oblivion, or are they going to be like, you know what, let's back off? I think because there were last year, obviously, the effort was not there on a 40-minute basis, whereas at least on Monday night, it was there practically for 40 minutes. So that's the one thing I'm going to be looking for, at least for the next couple of weeks before they get that little break before the Maui trip.
Talking about Maui, Boise State, we talked about in our little group chat. Washington State also lost to Idaho, and I think we would play or is it USC? It's USC, right? That we would play.
So USC
Boise
played Boise State. I think if we were to, let's just say hypothetically, NC State were to beat us. If we beat Boise State, most likely we get Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Yeah, which, we were talking about this, like it's kind of hard to trust a Bobby Hurley coach team because of how inconsistent they could be with their non-conference schedules. So like a legit, 2-1 Maui trip now seems more possible than ever. But obviously I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, try to enjoy and soak in how well this team played. But again, it's only one game we got 30 more of these to go. And, there's a lot that could change. Knock on wood that this team will avoid getting bit by the injury bug, because last year, like, they got plagued by it. So I'm other than God's will, everyone's healthy. So just imagine, how differently things can go and improve once you add God's will into the equation. Maybe that takes away minutes from Hines or Payne, but like, I think that's a good problem to have, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, Pat, one thing that you're most impressed by. We'll go around the room here. We'll start with Pat, Tim, when you guys don't take mine, because I don't think fast on my own. So I'm just praying.
Yeah, I'm probably going to repeat myself. I think it's the energy that this team brought, and you could feel it in the crowd. It was a relatively small crowd.
Bigger than Georgetown.
Look, Georgetown is not my state. Georgetown and DePaul are not my standards for what type of crowd I want to see.
That's fair. I'm just saying, we're coming off 7 wins. They're a tournament.
That's not
team,
my
right?
standard
They beat Kentucky.
I want 10,000 people in the building to watch us. And it was a relatively small crowd. We won't be able to sort of measure that until a week from tomorrow, when they play Monmouth back at the Rock, and then they play New Haven at the Rock before Maui. But the crowd there was energy in the crowd. There was energy in the student section. Those are things that you didn't see as much last year. So that's sort of the energy of the players translates, and Tim knows this as well as anybody, because he had many great nights sitting in the first couple of rows of the student section when he was at Seton Hall, when, guys like Carrington and Delgado and Desi Rodriguez would feed off each other's energy. Desi would make a great shot. The students would go nuts. And then Carrington goes and makes a steal and a runaway layup. So, in that sense, that's sort of something that they could get this crowd, which was definitely apprehensive, definitely sort of like, woe is us. We're going to come in last again. We're going to stink again. But now I think at least the people who were there on Monday left that building with a much better attitude about this team than they did walking into it.
Tim, your highlight, your one takeaway from this.
Something that they really struggled with last year was getting fast break points and points off turnovers. They forced 15 turnovers in this game. I think they had 23 points off turnovers and 10 points in fast break points. Like that is something that I can already tell that's a drastic improvement from last year. And again, I don't want to put too much stock into, what they were able to do in those categories against St. Peter's, but considering just how low of a bar that was, which is really sad if you think about it. That was what really impressed me. The fact that they forced turnovers, scored points off those turnovers, and they also hit the double-digit mark in fast break points, and they held St. Peter's to 0 fast break points. That's another. I think that's 1, 2, 3. It's a really good 1, 2, 3 combo to have.
That's awesome because I actually had 2 saved. Hopefully, you guys weren't going to take them. The press defense, first of all, I love the press defense that they applied. Full court press. I think every guy kind of fit their role in the press defense. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And the other thing that I'm going to say is, and Tim kind of mentioned it earlier on, how the ball moved around, 15 assists on 21 field goals. That is a great percentage. If that means the ball is moving around. And no one had, what was the leading assist guy? 3 with Jacob Dar. And obviously Dar does not bring the ball up that much. So obviously they're moving the ball all the way around, and him getting 3 assists and limiting the turnovers to 8. I'll take 4.5. I think that's a safe number. So I think there's a lot of good. It's St. Peter's. We get a similar matchup with the next 3 games. Wagner, of course, on Friday. Monmouth and who am I forgetting? Fairfield. Are they all before our next episode?
Yes. Actually, when you drop the episode next Thursday, it will be in the lead into people when we dropped the women's episode. Yeah. We were leading into the game last night,
it's
so
Thursday night
leads into. So yeah.
Okay. Player of the game, I gave it to Najai Hines. First of all, let's discuss a nickname, please, because this is on Facebook groups, it's on Twitter. He came with Baby Shaq.
Baby Shaq.
Patrick's great idea of promoting Baby Shaq kind of with the graphic. I said the Hammer. If you don't like Baby Shaq because maybe it's too early and you don't want to put pressure on the kid, the Hammer. Can we agree Duncan Hines is not it?
No, that's not it. That's for sure.
Absolutely not.
That's a no. See, the thing is, people were calling him Baby Shaq in the building on Monday, and people have been calling him Baby Shaq in his high school days. Again, going back to our episode in July, I said, what type of that's you may be putting a lot of pressure on this kid. On the other hand, one other thing, particularly, we might have talked about this about Jersey basketball, is that people take high school basketball in this state more seriously than it's given credit for.
Yeah,
we might not be Indiana, we might not be Kentucky, but people take those games, Plainfield versus Elizabeth, the Patrick School against Don Bosco. People take high school basketball seriously. So when you're playing in big games the way Plainfield has for the last couple of years, while Hines has been at Plainfield, you're playing in front of crowds that were bigger than the one he was in front of on Monday night, and that's the type of atmosphere. What if you could wither and just disappear in one of those atmospheres? So the fact that I think and I think he sort of is grounded. And when you watch the press conference, which I don't know if, when you watch the press conference, he definitely was very humble about what was taking place. He definitely was not going to stick his chest out and say, I'm the man. He knows that this is one game. He knows that he's a freshman. He knows he still has work to do in his game. And he knows that if he gets too much of an ego about this, he can be knocked right back down the next time he plays.
Fair enough. So, Tim, you're in agreement, Baby Shaq? We'll go with Baby Shaq.
I guess it's the default by now, considering also that, Shaq was born and spent his early years in Newark, which I think like there's some plausibility to that, but like I just can't help but think that there's got to be something better than that. Like not. I mean, I was just trying to think of some of the end like Nightmare Hines, like Najee Nightmare, but I don't know. I feel like I'm reading into that a little too much. Like the hammer, like something to do with power would be like ideal, but obviously, but you can't force a nickname on somebody. Unfortunately, it's got to come organically. I mean, my nickname came organically.
Yeah, it's a culture thing. I think this is just the type of thing. You grow up and you hear about these legends on the court. Dr. J is an example.
Bishop Zahara.
That's a different issue altogether. But Dr. J he just operated when he was on a court. Some of the other names you've heard over the years of other Wilt the Stilt, because he had the really long legs. And just looked like he was walking on stilts. The names are awkward, but that's just the way it goes. Irvin Johnson being called Magic because he could move the ball in places and just optical illusion and his team scoring a basket. So I think that's sort of where Baby Shaq comes from. It's the idea that, and he's also not quite as big as Shaquille O'Neal, but he does a lot of the same thing we talked about. Again, he does a lot of the same things on the court and just has that look of just man amongst boys. And that was apparent on Monday night.
You want to talk about man against boys? Tim Best is coming back after the break with his debut of Sign Mafia in season. I'm anticipating. This is Pirate Vibes on Big East Energy Network. So I'm anticipating that our numbers will increase, obviously, with the hype of the big win. We're in season now. So Tim, this is a big spot. For those that don't know, Tim obviously is world famous for creating signs of the Big East. He's part of the Big East culture. You can't write the Big East story without including Tim Best. Tim, let me make this screen bigger. And without further ado, Tim's in-season debut.
Here we go. Is Najai Hines an angel in disguise? And notice that the A is capitalized because of Angel Delgado. And I have a reason behind it. So obviously, one of the biggest talking points after the win was how much of the discourse was Najee's the best big man we've had since, like, pure big man since Angel Delgado. Mamu, he's a unicorn. He's in his own separate category. Like, he was able to do at 6'11". Najee at 6'10", 6'11". Like, there are so much about his game that kind of reminds me of Angel Delgado. The stature, the energy that he brings, and in terms of his post game, his touch, you couldn't ask for better. Especially from a freshman. Like, he has that ability. Like, he's not wise beyond his years, but like, you get what I'm saying, that like, that's the kind of touch that like a fourth or fifth year senior would have. Like, you develop that over time throughout your college career, and he just makes it look so natural. And Angel Delgado's touch around the rim was pretty much natural throughout. There were, some unfortunate moments. One that pained me the most was Big East semis 2017 against Villanova, had the chippy and missed it in and out. And, the visual of him crying underneath the basket after it was over, and Josh Hart consoled him. But yeah, I see a lot of Angel in Najai Hines. And keep in mind, people, Angel Delgado won Big East Freshman of the Year in 2015. So, and I'm not going to just prophesize this, say like, it's a lock. Najai Hines, Big East Freshman of the Year, because there are a lot of really good freshmen in the Big East. But after last night's performance, I'm thinking to myself, this dude is going to be a unanimous all-freshman team guy, number one. And number two, depending on how other freshmen from around the league do, mainly at UConn, because Dan Hurley has recruited really well amongst freshmen lately. I really wouldn't be shocked if Hines can be a high impact player like we saw on Monday going forward. I would be remiss to believe that Najee didn't have a legitimate shot at winning freshman of the year. And I'm going to need to see a little more. But Monday night, he looked like he had all the makings of this year's freshman of the year in the Big East. And hopefully, and I pray that this will be able to happen because of the landscape of college basketball and college athletics in general. But if we can retain him for the long run, this team as Sha hopefully will build a team around this guy. Oh, you do not want to mess with Seton Hall when they're up. So, I posted the meme and retweeted from Out of Context Shoe. I want you to tell the world that we back up. Like, we back up, and Najee's going to have a big, big role in that.
Talking about memes, you kind of sent me down. Do you remember the Wade and LeBron where he's throwing up the oop?
Of course.
So some will say that's Najai and Bud Clark. Some will say that. I've seen it in the Twitter space right now. So
yeah, I mean, the only subtle difference being it was a lob versus like a really nice bounce pass, and I'd probably harped on this. Like, no one throws bounce passes anymore. So for Bud to do that to Najee, chef's kiss.
There you go. Pat, your take on Sign Mafia for this week?
I will say, and I don't think I think that Hines is ahead of where Delgado was, because it took a lot of work to make Delgado the double-double machine. And credit, of course, to friend of the show, Grant Billemeyer of 1-0 NJIT.
G-Money.
For being the big man whisperer who made Angel Delgado what he was. And Angel Delgado was kind of a raw player when he got to Seton Hall, whereas Hines, of course, was playing in high-level high school basketball for many years, a couple of years leading up to it. So his game is definitely more polished than Delgado's was when Delgado came into Seton Hall. So it took a while for Delgado to become Delgado, whereas Hines is much closer to a finished product now. But again, he's still, he can't rest in his laurels. He's got to work in it. He's going to have a bad game or two somewhere down the line. He's going to run into an opponent. Maybe it will be Terrace Reed. Maybe it will be Xavier, who's going to push him back a little bit. But then he's got to find a way to work through it when he has those off nights, as all players do.
Definitely. All right, fellas, any last words before we go on these 2.5 games, I'm going to call them, because by the time our next episode comes out, that game is going to kind of be going on. Any last words going into this week before this is the last stretch before Maui? So,
a couple of quick thoughts about Fairfield and Monmouth next week. Obviously, Monmouth, if you're a Seton Hall player and Holloway hasn't gotten you motivated to get revenge on behalf of what happened last year, you shouldn't be on the court next Thursday night. Taquan Simpkins, my mistake. Now he's Taquan Simpkins. He's not TJ anymore. Taquan Simpkins had a huge game when he was at Elon last year against Monmouth, scoring 26 points. And Bud Clark had 2 big games when MAAC blew out Fairfield twice last year. To piggyback off of something I said with Clark coming into this St. Peter's game, that he knows what he's going against on the other side on Monday night. So I think that's something that should give an extra level of encouragement, because a couple of our players have seen who we're playing in these games next week, and they'll be ready to attack.
Tim, any last words?
So with Bud Clark, he like Monday night, he played very well. The stat sheet doesn't show it, his numbers. If you look at them, he only had 2 assists, 8 points, but the 2 assists he had, he made them count. And like Pat said, the jump shot that he had been working so hard on in the offseason, like you saw the results of that for him to go 2 for 3 from behind the arc. My challenge for him is to emerge and like really step up from being, and he really didn't have a lot of play. He only played 25 minutes, but he made those minutes count. If he's going to get more minutes over the next few games, my challenge for him is to find a way to up the assist number and start running the offense even better than he was on Monday. And granted, it was really by committee where everyone was sharing the sugar, as Steve Lavin would say. So, yeah, my challenge, Bud, everyone hyped him up, and, there was so much hype surrounding him. Everybody knows that as like the big get in the transfer portal for this team. So my challenge for him, show why there was all that hype around you. You had good numbers against St. Peter's, but take it a step up and put up great numbers against Wagner, Fairfield, Monmouth, and of course, as we'll get to, in that last game before Maui against New Haven at Walsh.
Yeah, I think consistency, right? I think we're kind of summarizing consistency. I think the first game, obviously, we blew out a team that we're supposed to blow out, St. Peter's. That was a big step for this team. Now we got to do that every single time we're out to become a better team. You just have to kill. You just got to kill and be aggressive the entire time. So,
I don't want to hear a robocall like the one I heard you play on Big E's beat from the fake Xavier fan.
So if anyone doesn't know, robocalls are now a segment on Big E's beat. Me and Matt Janis go back and forth. We asked ChatGPT to analyze the game and give us like a fake call into like a radio station, and Seton Hall was not part of the 3. So they are not one of the 3 worst situations, which is great because going into the season, we were pegged for 11th. So the fact that the first night we avoided the robocalls, I love to see that. But anything else, fellas? Because I know Tim's got appointment viewing. It's Wednesday night. Chicago's on.
Yes, sir.
Pat's lived at a basketball court this entire week. I just got done with rec basketball evaluations. We've all had long days, but any last words before we go on to this stretch?
I mean, I got nothing. I mean, listen, like I said, I'm extremely happy with how Monday night's game went, and let's just keep the train rolling, man. Hooks up, baby.
Hooks up. For Patrick Madden, Tim Bess, I'm Bryan Webster. This is Pirate Vibes on the Big East Energy Network.
Ahoy there! Ahoy, me hearties!